The first time I realized that there was an indication with my wife that she was a little bit out of control, a little bit more out of control than the normal drinker, was around 2002 when our son was 2 years old. And if this is the first time seeing me, well, I was married for 25 years and my wife passed away, unfortunately, from alcohol use disorder about 4.5 years ago. And when our son was about two, we had just sold our house in Canyon Lake. We moved about 20 miles south to a town called Temecula in Southern California. And I had taken some time off. I think we made quite a bit of money on the house. And our son was young. And it was a period, a really weird period. Amanda started drinking. I think it was maybe part of it was postpartum depression. Part of it was the stress of moving. But she had a period of about 3 weeks where she was drinking to pass out almost every night, and I really didn't understand it, because we had such a bond with our new baby, and he was almost 2 years old at this time, our son, and it was really sad. And she went into a detox situation after this 2 or 3 week period, and it was really tough. I remember going to, coming home, and I mean, she was praying to the porcelain god, and this was very early on. Probably about 9 years into our marriage. And it really didn't make a lot of sense because she had not had anything to drink during her pregnancy, and that would have been 1999. And our son was born in 2000, and she had had a period of kind of back to normal. I mean, she didn't drink all the time from about 2000 until about this period. And I think maybe the stress of the moving and postpartum depression kind of reignited it again. And then she started drinking consistently after that. And the second time that it kind of flared up that there was a problem was really during the when we were driving the kids to school. They had kind of a mother ride share to the school, and this would have been probably around second grade. And one of the mothers smelled alcohol on her breath. And they just said, you're not driving my kid anymore. And I remember it was a big, huge controversial thing between my wife and the local mothers. And there, it's a town where there's lots of kids, and she kind of got a reputation from that. And some of the mothers kind of split away from her at that point, and that would have been about '07. So by then we were about 13 years into our marriage, and that's when I started seeing cracks in her drinking, and that it was starting to permeate more than just drinking at night and being a reward system. And really after that event, Amanda never drove our son to school again. I just said, that's not happening again. And when we moved to another town, to Escondido, for a few years because I was flipping houses. My son went to school there. I always drove him. And then when we moved back to Temecula in 2010, I always drove him to school. Amanda never drove him again, really, from the time he was probably 8 or 9 years old until he graduated from high school 10 years later. I either drove him or he walked back and forth from school, which is only about a mile away, most of the schools he went to. So I took that out of the equation real early. And then really when you look back and you think about through all of it, I mean, there was just this consistency of continued drinking, and that binge drinking that had happened in 2002, it happened again in like '04 and '06 and '08. And there was always this feeling like it was right around the corner that this horrible binge drinking and then self-detoxification was going to happen. And that was just horrible when you hear dry heaves. And I mean, she'd be thrown up, and you could just hear the all over the house, and it was just horrible. And there was times where I just had to call 911 because it got too out of hand. And the thing is, they were years apart, and as time wore on, those binge drinking episodes, they became closer and closer and closer together, to where the last 4 or 5 years, it was just one binge drinking episode after another. And again, I tell these kind of microcosm little stories because it's a progression. Okay, you have binge drinking episodes followed by consistency in drinking, and then the binge drinking episode, and consistency in binge drinking episodes, and they start to permeate into your health, into your relationships. It created a lot of stress in our relationships. It obviously affected our son. We had to make different plans to get him to school, albeit I had to drive him or he walked, or we had other friends drove him. But we had to start to create our life in a different direction because of her drinking. And it began to affect even in the early years. 10 years into the marriage, you could see signs of cracking. And really, I talk about this specifically is because it's so important to understand that it's a progressive disease. And if you can get somebody earlier on, like I have always said, her first rehab was in 2014. I wish we had gotten her into a rehab in 2004. But again, if you don't know what you don't know. And unfortunately, by the time she got help, she was well into mid to late stage 3 alcoholic, and by the time 2014 rolled around. So it's so important to get it earlier, which is really one of the main reasons why I wrote her book. And it's called Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. It's the story of her last 25 years in our relationship. We were married for that long. And unfortunately, she succumbed about 4.5 years ago. The story is a deep dive into how it affects relationships, how it affected her, obviously, physically, emotionally. It's not all bad. We had really far more good years than we had bad. It's a good read, and I'm getting a lot of good feedback about it. Highly recommend it. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble for the ebook. The hard copy you can get in Barnes & Noble, and you can also get it on my website. Link is in the link tree in my bio. Quickest way to get it, to go to the website, PayPal button's right there. Again, I go live Monday through Friday right around 6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern time. We have the Facebook group called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. And when you're ready to work with me one-on-one, I have a complete coaching program. Set up a Zoom call. Again, link is in the bio. Call is free, course definitely not, but I'm here. I'm really looking for people who want to change their lives and the lives of their family. And again, thanks so much for listening.